debate season. So we thought, why not have a little debate on the hottest topic around that's not politics? Desi men and Desi women. Who has it tougher? Um, before we get started for the debate, I just want to go over what Single to Shadi is about. So we are a matchmaking service founded by the fabulous Radha. So what we do is matchmaking, that's our bread and butter, but we've started expanding towards just events. So whether it's live events, I know several of y'all have come to our happy hours and stuff, and our speed dating events, gala. So, but not just that, we also do virtual events like the one that you're on right now. So, and we're just trying to essentially form a community and just talk South Asian material or just anything under the sun. So, we appreciate you all joining us and appreciate you guys allowing us to be a part of your dating journeys. So without uh further ado, let's get right into it. We have two wonderful panelists. I'm going to start with Aakash Desai. He is the founder of the meetup group called Browns on Broad in Philadelphia. He's hosted several events, but he hosted one in collaboration with us back in August in Philly, and it was epic. Might be a couple people who actually went to it on this call as well. So, Akash, would you like to get started with your bio?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Aakash. I live in Philadelphia, and we in Philly never back down from a fight. I am honored and excited to be representing the men here today in our debate. And look, guys, let's be real. The dating marketplace is broken, and there are four major reasons as to why. The first is there's an illusion of options that we have. The second is when trying to find a match, we take a supermarket approach. The third is the idea of what we want and the reality of what we're actually able to attract has a huge disparity. And that leads to the fourth issue, and that is a supply and demand problem. But I'm confident by discussing conflicting ideas, we can get closer to the truth. And I'm excited to embark on this journey with you all. And I'm confident that together we can overcome the hurdles. And once again, we are going to make dating great again. I will now hand it over to my worthy opponent, Vaidehi.
Go
Good
ahead, Vaidehi.
evening. Hey, thanks. Good evening, everyone. My name is Vaidehi. I am 34 years old and I live in Chicago. I'm thankful for Single to Shadi to have me here today. I would probably say that I'm a reformed dater, evolved in my dating scene, and I have quite a few perspectives of dating that I want to bring to the table. And just like my co-debater said, I believe that having open discussion, being able to be vulnerable with the current issues that are out there can help us make it better for each other. I too understand that dating is broken and it seems like it's hard for everyone out there. So I think I can help. I think that a healthy debate, a healthy discussion, and maybe some back and forth will get us closer to the truth. And hopefully we can share some light on our dating journeys with you as well.
Amazing, amazing. Everyone, can we please get some claps, some emojis, some yays in the chats, please? Some W's. Let's get hyped. Come on. There we go. There we go. All right, I'm seeing it. Okay. Okay, there we go.
We got a
Thank
great
you.
crowd today.
Yeah,
Thank you
we
all for
do.
joining.
Thank you all. I hope you guys got your dinner ready. This is gonna be fun. Okay. So, the format of this is we request everyone to stay muted. However, as ask question, you guys can like type up your questions and I'll bring them up as I see fit. So just type up whatever questions you have and we'll address them accordingly. And we have a whole host of questions that we are going to be going over as well. So. And then at the end, if we have time, we might do like a Q&A. So we'll see. We'll see where the vibes are by the end. So let's see. So without a further ado, okay, so that's the final slide. Hold up. Okay, let me stop sharing. And so you can see the beautiful panelists. Hold up. All right. Okay, give me one moment. All right, perfect. All right. So, uh, first question that we have. So we have several umbrella topics here. So we're going to go over three major topics, and then we're going to do some rapid fires at the end. So the umbrella topics are matching. So we're going to be talking about just like just like physical matching, body image stuff. So we're going to be asking questions around that. We're going to be talking about that. The second umbrella topic is going to be courtship, chivalry. I know that was a hot topic on the WhatsApp group chat a couple days ago, and some other stuff around courtship. And then just some relationship stuff, some common relationship questions like just intimacy, emotional availability, etc. And then some rapid fires where we talk about whatever, like Andrew Tate stuff, toxic masculinity, red flags, etc. Icks. So, um, yeah. So without for okay, so we're going to start with the matching. So I guess, Akash, I'd like to ask you, why is that? Why is it so hard? Just to match with people to get matched. Like, why do you feel dating is hard, I guess? Maybe let's start off with that one.
For
Why do you
sure.
feel it's
That's a
hard?
great question. So,
Yeah.
in my opening, I mentioned we have an illusion of options. Really, that comes from online dating playing a huge role in the sense that you're constantly swiping left and right. And there's the mindset of there's always you're looking for the next best thing. Especially out here on the East Coast, it always feels like despite any connections you're able to make, there's a notion that you know what, there's something better out there, and that's what I'm going to look for. And I think it stems from not understanding what is actually important to you, what actually matters, and then approaching it from that standpoint. The other thing I want to bring up is as dating apps are very popular and many people are using those as kind of the avenue to find good matches. The reality is 80% of the users on a majority of these dating apps are men. Only 20% of them are women. I mentioned there's a supply and demand issue. That's really what we're talking about. On top of that, 90% of the women are going for the top 10% of men. So that's where there's a huge disparity between who's actually getting noticed, who's actually getting a majority of the matches, and how we're actually able to move forward. Mix that in with the fact that instead of operating with certain foundational pieces in terms of what we're looking for, many people are often operating out of laundry lists, saying, I want this. And that's what I mean when it's a supermarket approach. When you go into a supermarket, you have a long list of items that you need, and that's all you pay attention to. Anything outside of that doesn't matter. So I think those are the major factors that are playing into it. Is there are it's a supply and demand thing where most of the women are going for the top 10%, the elite men, and then all the other men are kind of left with whatever's out there, making it difficult. And then because those top 10% of men are matching with 90% of the women, they have all the options. So therefore, that's creating this really this dysfunction in terms of being able to match properly and connect properly.
Also, for the record, beautifully said, but we're not going to be fact checking anything, so we're going to take the percentages as is. So there's no fact checking here. Videhi, your response?
I think my partner may have blew those statistics out of the way, but we're gonna try to respond. I think it's a layered response on why dating is hard. I think the first and foremost, we are a South Asian group here. Um, Understanding that dating is difficult because coming from a girl's perspective, I don't know if everybody grew up traditional. There's an aspect where you aren't allowed to date for a long time. And I can only speak for it from a girl's perspective, but if you aren't allowed to date, you don't know how to date. And if you don't know how to date, you're not doing it right with intention. If it comes from a men's perspective, I think that's also the truth. If you're not aware of what to say and how to say it, I think there's a finesse to dating. And I want to say that having been in the scene for a little bit, I think it's hard to navigate these while you're trying to understand and get to know folks because some of it comes off as the approach is not appropriate. I think my partner here said how majority of the women are looking for the top 10%. I would say the majority of South Asian women are high value women. They should be looking for the top 10%. That's not to say that South Asian men are not of high value. Um, I think it can be very much resolved with, like I said, the right approach and understanding certain cues, understanding the dating finesse. One of the other things I want to add to that is that I think a lot of people aren't dating intentionally. I'm 34. I've entered the dating scene twice in my life. I took a break. And I think that everyone is looking for something, but they're not always so sure that they're able to really commit. And when that time comes, it seems like women are usually ready. You have whole packages. You've got a good woman with a good job, beautiful, smart, intelligent, family oriented. I mean, you do see a lot of South Asian women dating outside of our culture because a lot of these things are getting picked up by other folks that are not South Asian. And I think a lot of that stems from maybe our background, maybe with learning how to approach women, learning how to understand women, balancing women that are also ambitious and understanding how you can be of support in the feminist movement. I think coming here as an immigrant, you are brought up to be really educated and really ambitious in your career. So this factor of chivalry, this factor of I make more money, you make more money, I think we all are on the same platform. And I think a lot of times men are intimidated by really strong, feminist, independent women. And I want to say that a lot of it also has to do with the dating apps, like my partner and overarching, we've talked about. That would probably be the third thing, is that we are so used to as natural humans interacting and socially getting to know each other. Think about it. We used to get to know each other at a bar. We used to go up to people. People are on their phones these days. And if you are on the dating apps, you are looking at height, you're looking at their looks, you are looking at their age, and you might filter some of these things off that may not even matter. Whereas before, the dating culture used to be how you meet the person, you see how they are, you see how they carry themselves, then you do get to know them and find out these things. And sometimes they matter, sometimes they don't. You're able to make the connection first. And I think dating apps have made it much harder because you're making the connection later. And I think this is a great segue into Utkarsh because Single to Shadi has in-person events, right?
Yes, in-person events. And speaking of which, we do have one this coming Saturday. So whatever takes that Akash does, you can yell at him on Saturday. And on November 9th, you can yell at Vaidehi as well. So thank you for the segue. There was an interesting question in regard to your stats, which are really popular in the chats right now, Akash. So how do you define the top 10%? Yeah, I guess what is the top 10% for you?
I mean, honestly, you should be asking the women that because they're the ones who are considering the top 10%. I do want to push back on one thing. Vaidehi, you mentioned that most South Asian women, are highly independent, ambitious, and therefore they deserve the top 10%. I'd like to ask you two things. One, if you feel that way, then there are 90% of you, according to the stats, but you're only going for the top 10% of men. So, how exactly does that work? And how exactly do all of you qualify if there are only a small percentage of men that you all are going for? How are men supposed to choose? And the second thing is, I love the fact that women are dominating in the professional world now, that they're independent, they're ambitious. I think it's fantastic. But the reality is, that's not necessarily what the high quality men are attracted to and looking for. They might be perks for some people, but those aren't the main core values that we're looking for when it comes to attracting the women that we'd like to build a life with. And the issue is a lot of times these women who are highly independent, very ambitious, there's a notion and an attitude that comes with it. They a lot of times are arrogant, they're not very warm, they're not very inviting, and it's very difficult to actually make proper connections with them that would make you feel comfortable really pursuing a relationship. So I want to clarify that it's not that men are insecure of these women. We just don't like a lot of the other traits that come along with being highly independent, highly ambitious, because a lot of time that comes with entitlement, that comes with arrogance, and quite frankly, we don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think right off the bat, if you don't want to deal with it, someone else will. So
But if that's true, why is dating so hard? Why aren't these women finding the men they're looking for if you really claim that if you don't, someone else will?
someone else will. There's always a partner made for everybody. I would say that I think you're honest in your answer that it is a difficult topic, and you're right that sometimes these are qualities that we walk around with. But let me remind you that independence is a trauma response. Not to say that I have it, not to say that everybody has it for that reason. Hyper independence is comes from a nature that someone else wasn't able to do it, so I'm doing it for myself. I want to say that I didn't become ambitious to build my career because of that. I didn't have a father or a family to support me, but I had ambition from our nature and our culture to build this career, and my family supported me through that. But when it comes to living in a society of equality, that's what comes with it. Like if you don't find others that are going to do it, you're going to do it yourself. And I think when you're in the right situation, you can live in your feminine and you won't be arrogant and you won't be able to come off as that like mean person. I think being a strong, ambitious, and feminine women, feministic women, however you want to phrase that, I've come to terms that there are two people that can be with that woman. One of them is someone who's secure enough, who's confident enough that their women, no matter how much money they make, it's not going to bother them. No matter how much um, they say they can do things themselves, they're going to understand and learn how to love and still care for them. Acts of service are huge for these type of women. If we talk about love languages, right? How can you fit into that puzzle? If you're able to figure that out as a high value man, you'll be able to make that relationship work. What happens is oftentimes you don't see that from the beginning. And I think the second type of a man that could be with a woman that is of this nature is someone who's able to relinquish that control, who is able to be more on a calmer side and able to let the women run through things. I think this is very common, not just in relationships that happen by choosing your own partner, but if you look back at partners in arranged marriages, if you see a strong feministic women, those used to be around. My grandma is one of the biggest advocate for women. It worked for her and my grandpa. They had a different relationship. They found commonality and they found a way for it to work where she did run the show. She did have a voice. My grandpa was confident in himself, but he was a much quieter version. He led in a different way in the relationship. So for you to sit there and say that this is hard for us to deal with, like sit down and learn the approach. Sit down and see where you can fit into our lives because every for as much as we live in our masculine, we want to live in our feminine, and a right man will allow us to do that.
Absolutely. But it's not necessarily allowing you to do it. It's the fact that we don't believe that you have that ability. Because a lot of times when you approach these women, when you deal with these women, that's not the first thing that comes across. And I think a lot of times that's a turnoff. So I want to clarify it's not an insecurity, it's a preference. Just like, for many women, they prefer to be with a man that's taller than them, that earns more than them, is more charismatic, has the ability to lead. These are all preferences. Similarly, it's not that men are insecure of these things. If I were to tell you, are you insecure if you want a man that's taller than you or earns more money than you? It's not an insecurity, it's a preference. So that's what I want to clarify. It's not an insecurity. It's just a preference that we prefer to be with women who lean more into their feminine side. And the ambitious, the independence, those are more masculine traits. So again, I love ambitious women. I love what they've been able to accomplish in the world. And I do agree with you. I believe there's a balance through which they can lean into their feminine side. The problem is, as men, we often don't see it, and we definitely don't see it up front.
A
I
couple
think
things. I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
Vaidehi. I know you're responding back. let's be respectful in the chat, please. I know people are really passionate, but let's be calm and be respectful. Yeah, no, just be respectful. You know what that means. Now the second question is or point is, I think Arvind had a question which I think you guys touched on. Um, and I think some people are still a little confused by it. What exactly does it mean to be feminine? And I guess this is more of a Videhi question.
I think when you look at relationships, right? So if you follow a bunch of dating coaches or you are really looking into this topic, biology tells us that the man should be in the masculine provider mindset. The women should be soft, empathetic, and a feminine in her feminine. There's a very common terminology that if everyone's algorithm changes today on Instagram, you're going to get these reels. Is women want, and independent women want to live in their feminine. That is letting a man lead. That is finding a man that's still going to take care of her. That is finding a man that is still going to provide. And providing does not mean monetary. Providing is being there for the family, being available for emotionally available, physically available to your children. I want to say that being feminine per se is not the paradox that women have to stay in the kitchen and cook. It's the fact that you can be soft. Biologically, men are more physical, women are more emotional. Women want to be that emotional rebound for a man. And again, we were talking about hetero relationships. I don't know dynamics of others, but I can talk about this, is that that is our natural state of being. Evolution of culture and humans has evolved that women now make the same amount of money. And so we are getting exactly the same thing a man gets, right? So a lot of times if I'm doing everything that I can in this relationship or for my life, then I don't it used to be that you needed a man to open up a bank account and you needed a man to fund you because you couldn't make money or make enough to make a living, right? You couldn't even open up a bank account without your dad's name or something like that. Um, that's evolved, and we need to evolve with that. What does that look like in today's culture where we are all South Asian? We have high expectations from our parents and our culture to have a career and have somewhat of a living. We are going to make the money, but we need to find a way for this to work. And this is the right forum to do that. Is if it's not monetary, why is chivalry dead? Why is it that we are still having this discussion? And what can we do to move the needle forward? That's what we're here for. I promise you that being a feminine women, we want it's not just about you. I could open up the door myself. I would love for a man to open the door for me, not let me carry my heavy luggage, knowing that I can do that myself as well. And the vice versa. A man should be able to do things that women do, cook, take care of the children, feed the children, whatever that might be. But I think we come at it very aggressively because we are all probably recovering from some of that trauma, and that is layered in many other aspects that we aren't vulnerable with our partners when we do approach dating and can't, like Akash said, a lot of us women that are very strong and headstrong and feminist can come off very harsh when we should be soft. We should allow ourselves to be empathetic and supportive for our man. And in some aspects of it, I do believe that you have to also heal yourself to heal and find a partner.
I like that. I kind of want to tie this back to the original topic of why it's difficult to match. So as you mentioned, as the feminist movement has increased, and as you kind of brought up the fact that we're closer to being equal, I want us to understand how that is impacting the dating market. So essentially, women, for the most part, they prefer to date up. So they want a man that makes more money than them, that's better looking than them, that can protect and provide for them. Basically, in majority of categories, they're looking for somebody that's superior or earns more. I don't want to use the term superior, but essentially they want somebody better. So when you have that equality, it's important to understand that then your pool gets even smaller. And therefore, it's important to really understand and focus in on what matters to you. And that's where, people have these laundry lists, like I want somebody that has this. The more requirements you have, the shorter that list gets and the smaller that pool gets. So it's important to understand, look, I'm all for going after what you think is best for you, getting what you think you deserve. I am totally for that. But let's be honest about what you're actually able to attract. If you think, as a woman, you can, you want a man in finance, trust fund, 6'5", blue eyes, go for it. Absolutely. That's fantastic. If you can get that, all the credit to you. But are those the guys that are in your DMs? Are those the guys that you're matching with on dating apps? Are those the guys you're actually going on dates with? And I say the same thing, to men. Okay, you think you're high value, you think you deserve a supermodel. Great. Is Kriti Sanon hitting you up? Is Kiara Advani hitting you up? Are you actually able to attract those women? So I think it's important to understand it's great to have this perfect idea and concept of, hey, this is the type of person I want to spend my life with. But then let's have a reality check on, okay, what am I actually attracting? What's the disparity here? So I think it's important to be realistic in that sense. And that's where it's really important. Instead of operating on a laundry list of things, have 3 or 4 things, foundations or pillars that are absolutely non-negotiables, that these are the 3 or 4 things that I must have in a partner. And the rest of the things are more just preferences.
There's a lot of chatter about what is and this is by chatter I mean on the actual chat about what is a high value person. A lot of people are have mixed feelings about that concept in general, but you guys have mentioned it multiple times. What is a high value man or a high value yeah, actually Akash, what is a high value man in your opinion?
I'll give both. So, what a high value man is and what I would think a high value woman is. So, for me, a high value man is a man that protects and provides, a man that has a strong set of morals and values, and then has boundaries that he sets and enforces based off of his moral code and the values that he lives off of. And then, in terms of a high value woman, I look at someone who's caring, who's nurturing, who has a kind heart, and can be supportive to a man as he takes on his masculine role. And the final caveat, people may not like this term, but is not a hoe. Um, as men, we like what we consider high value women are ones who we can build a life with. And we don't like to be with promiscuous women. So high value man, very simple, protect and provide. And having the ability to set and enforce boundaries based off of high set of values. And a high value woman is someone we can build a life with, someone who's nurturing and caring that can take care of our family and isn't promiscuous.
Dang, Akash, my answer. As far as the high value man and a high value woman, I think these terms, you're right, are thrown around like that. They can be misconstrued as like people that are rich, people that are popular, people that are good looking. But true is understanding that you are a high value woman because you have high ethics and morals. You understand that you are like you have a greater understanding of your yourself, and you're pretty aware and confident. I think confidence is key in this. Like Akash said it as well. I would say that in dating, when it comes to a high value woman, you once again mentioned it for it to work, and if you follow some of these dating coaches, they talk about it, is that it is a paradigm shift in how we look at men and women, and we have evolved, but to some degree there's parts of us that want a provider mindset. We want, someone to take care of us in a partner, and that is both ways. And so when it comes to that, the woman is a little bit more has intuition with herself and is a little bit more confident, a little bit more empathetic. And a man is like, yes, I can be strong. I promise you, I lift a lot of weights, but I don't think I'm going to be able to lift as much as a man. And so to some degree, there's some parts of this relationship he's going to do. I don't need him to open up every jar for me, but there are pieces of this that still stay true to our biology, and that's to honor that. I would say that when it comes to relationships as well, is you're looking for a high value man, someone who is going to be a provider and not cheat and be loyal, be honest, be with that one person. Nobody wants a relationship with a man that's going to be philandering with other people as well. And I think Maybe Akash could change the wording from a hoe, but I think what keeps the woman bubbly, promiscuity is, yes, I understand what you're trying to get at, but there's a fine line of what women are, and there's an energy that is feminine, and it is playful, it is very soft, it is very supportive in a manner. And I think there are pieces of it where you want a woman to be have freedom and have independence in that as well. To sit there and kind of say that these are some behaviors you don't want. Of course you don't want a loyal, of course you don't want someone that's cheating as well. And I think that's the same to be said on this side. When you're in a monogamous relationship, uh, there are that. But to deny that we have other uh, aspirations in life before you get into a relationship and call us a hoe is not appropriate, but just wanted to clarify that.
No, I think that's fine. I understand and I respect that. And what I want to clarify is I am not telling women what to do. You have your independence. Feel free to do with it what you would like. Just understand, just like Newton's third law, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So, you know,
What
depending
the hell is he talking about now?
depending depending on your actions, there are consequences. So just understand the types of men that you're trying to attract and settle down with. They are not looking to be with women who have had a promiscuous past. So
I don't think it matters.
I'm not saying what women
I
should
don't think it matters.
do what you
Again,
want. Just
this is hitting an
understand there are
insecurity of yours.
consequences.
What consequences are there, sir? This is hitting an insecurity of yours. This is to deny the fact that women can also have a sexual life before getting into a relationship. You
Absolutely, they
can
can.
do what
I'm
you
not
want.
denying that. I'm not denying that, but understand the consequences for those women who choose to behave that way is that they, in the end, are very unlikely to attract the type of man that they want. The type of man that they want to settle down with will never actually take that type of woman seriously. It's
I
not an
think
insecurity. Again, it's not an insecurity. It's a preference. And the type of men that you are trying to attract and settle down with are never going to give you the attention and the time of day that you seek. So
I
again,
think you
not
might
trying to
not.
tell you what to do. I'm just saying there are consequences, and it's important to have that understanding so that years later you don't feel like, oh well, why am I not able to get the man I want?
I don't think your past dictates what you get in the future.
Oh, it absolutely does. A man will bet on a woman's past. A woman will bet on a man's future.
So I don't understand. What did you say?
I said a man will bet on a woman's past, and a woman will bet on a man's future when
I
entering
don't know.
a
I don't
relationship.
know how true that is. But then, if you're talking about past relationships, so if I had quite a few relationships, or maybe someone with a high body count, you think that some guy's going to be like, this is a perfect woman. This is who could be the mother of my children. This is who I could spend the rest of my life with, eat thousands of meals with for the rest of my life. Oh, but she has a really high body count and she slept around a lot, so I'm not going to marry her.
So
Again,
you're getting
if
it
that
twisted.
is if that is one of the reasons, that is why dating is hard. And what are women supposed to do? We have the power to do what we want with our lives, right?
You're right,
And
but understand the dynamic you're talking about is flipped. If you're a promiscuous woman, or if you're a promiscuous woman, the man is not going to think that he can settle down with you. I'll give you some stats. I know people, if you want to fact check me, you can fact check me. Women who have a body count higher than 5 are 35% more likely to get a divorce in their first marriage. When that number increases to 10, it goes to over 50%. Men, how do we feel about those odds?
I think when you throw statistics out there like that, you might be more likely to get a divorce one day than just,
I'd
like
like to settle down before we get to that point. I think there are steps involved. And listen, again, I'm just trying to point the reality to you. That's all I'm doing is I'm giving you an honest reflection of how men think, and especially how the men you want to settle down with, who you consider high value, who you consider as a part of that top tier, the top 10%. That is how they think, and that is how they choose a partner.
I whatever that top 10%, again, if they are a confident and secure man, they're not going to care.
Oh,
And
they absolutely will. And
they
the thing,
won't care.
keep in mind, they have options. because 90% of you are going for that top tier. They have options. So would they choose someone who has a promiscuous past versus someone who they know is going to be loyal to them? Makes a big difference.
I will have to disagree. And your top 10%, you're talking about this high value man is obviously, yes, you're talking about people that are probably better looking, probably in this model-esque. We just talked about it. These are unexpected, unrealistic expectations. You know, if you're talking about those people, they might have those options, but I can't just sit here and say this one thing, this one body count is one of the reasons why they're not going to want that woman. Like, that is their
They won't
past. You,
entertain it. Forget what they won't entertain it because I'll be honest with you, men have a very good radar of these things. They can
whether
figure
they
it
have a
out
radar or
very
not,
quickly, and therefore they're not going to show any level of interest. It's not even going to get to a point where they have to make a decision on somebody. It's not even going to cross their mind.
I don't really like to sit here and talk about body counts and what that might be or what that pertains to. I think we come from a society that invented the Kama Sutra. Like to sit here and deny the fact that women, not deny, but to judge women on having a past in that realm and for that to not let them achieve the top tier and 10%, I think that's a paradox that we shouldn't even think about. If we are trying to attract the top 10%, there are many other things you probably need to qualify for that. If you just need to attract a partner, I think you need to be more understanding of why does it bother you that this person has this. You can look at the flip side. If somebody has a high body count, they have better experience. If they have a
And don't
higher
think
body,
about that.
you don't
Men
want to
don't
think
want a
about
woman
that.
with
But if you are
they
safe
want to be
and
able
you
to
don't have
build that
children,
for
and
her.
if you don't have and you've done it, sexual freedom is a real thing. And I don't know why we are steering into this topic. But I want to let you know that this is a real thing that happens in India. If we are denying this on the women's side and allowing men to have a higher body count or whatever that case might be, it's not fair.
I'll
And
okay, I'll tell you why it's fair, or at least why what you're looking at this thing from an equal standpoint. Who is sex harder to get for? Is it harder for men or is it harder for women? Answer that for me. Who controls access to sex, men or women?
I think if we're talking about dating, that comes to at a different phase of that. I don't know if we're maybe steering from the
So you're
topic.
choosing not to answer the question.
I
Who
could answer
controls
the
access
question,
to sex?
but I think I don't remember your question because it doesn't pertain
Who is
to
sex?
why
Who
matching
controls
is hard
access
or
to
not.
sex? Who
I'm
controls if
sorry, what
sex
was that?
happens? Who makes that decision
Who makes what decision?
if sex happens or not? Who
I
controls
think the
access
women.
to sex?
I think the women does. Otherwise, it's considered rape.
100%. I agree with you. So if you walk into a bar right now, and I challenge any woman on this call right now, you walk into a bar, 50% of the men will be willing to hook up with you on the spot.
That's because men think with that and they lead with
I
that.
agree. But if you take, you know, the most high value man that you know, not like someone who's famous, but somebody that's actually in your network, in your friend circle that you know, that number will drop to about 5%. Because for a man to qualify to get sex, he has to be good looking, he has to be fit, he has to have a good job, he needs to earn well, he needs to have good game, he needs to be charismatic, he needs to have a sense of humor. For women, you just need to be decently attractive. That's it. There's
Yeah,
one qualification. There's one qualification for men. They need to qualify in all these different ways, which is why for a man who has a higher body count, he clearly has earned something along the way. He has qualified in multiple ways with multiple women. For a woman to have a high body count, she just needs to basically breathe and exist and say yes. That's it.
no,
But
I think
understand the value.
that
Okay.
insinuates.
I'm gonna hold on. Okay.
Wait,
This is
one closing remark,
all right,
and
go
then
ahead.
I will say it. I think this insinuates the fact that women are maybe sluts, and I think we should move away from that narrative because I think one thing is true. If you're dating to intentionally date, body counts is something that comes in a relationship topic. If you are going to the bar to just pick up someone, that's a different debate,
I'm
and
just
that's
giving you an example to prove
that's
the point.
casually sleeping, which I don't think we're here to talk about. So
I'm just
back.
giving you the example to prove the point. That's all.
Okay. All right. Thank you guys. Okay. So, that got heated. Let's do something a little less heated. Uh,
Now,
so let's talk about chivalry now. So, what is chivalry in the modern day? Is it dying, or has it evolved? Like, what do you consider, like, who should be paying for the first dates? Should they be splitting it? Like, what what are your opinions? And this time, actually, I'm going to start with Videhi for this one.
Sure. I caught quite, woo, let me restart that. I caused quite the stir with my little video. But I used to date in my 20s and I felt the same thing that I feel today is that sometimes chivalry is dead. And here's why. Chivalry is not taking me on a $300 date every single time. The simple act of it is being caring and nurturing and being courteous. If you take some of those true aspects of chivalry and apply it to dating, it is there is a courtship and there is a finesse to it. Again, you have to learn it if you want to attract the right type of a person. You can do it. There are resources out there. I started dating 2 years ago, again in my 30s, with the most intention possible. And I would go home and Google attachment styles. I would go home and Google some of these things that I didn't know. Might be embarrassing, but you know what? I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to be a better dater. And I think everyone can do that. And if you don't know these acts of chivalry, I think it is easy to learn. It is free. You don't talking about who pays for that, that comes a little bit later. One of the most simple acts that one of my best friends thinks about is when you're walking down the street is, um, does a man stand on the outside? I've had men intentionally walk on the outside of me to make sure. And it's a simple act of saying, hey, I got you covered. And back to my point, this matters because you still want that provider person to take care of you. Some of these things that we talked about that matter to people, like they want them to be taller than them or whatnot. A lot of that comes from like old ideas that don't make sense a lot or whatnot, that they're a little bit taller, they're a little bit bigger, they're able to defend you and protect you if there was a war, whatever might be the case. But there's pieces of that that still live within us. I have a dad that hasn't let me lift a finger sometimes. And so these are things that I look forward to. Some simple acts of chivalry today could mean pulling the chair out, helping with the coat, making sure that I get help with the groceries. I've seen many couples where the women in our South Asian culture are running around doing a lot of these things. And the men also order for that. And that is not our age. It is in that older generation. And some of it is in our age that are from that older generation that have that mindset that women should do a lot of the things and do a lot of the housework. And so um, there is a piece of that where you want that chivalrous man. Um, for the courtship and talking about who pays, I want to say that it should be a courtship of the man. Whether they make the more money or not, take people out on a date that's affordable for you. Nobody's asking for it. Not everyone is asking for a $300 date. Um, if someone would take me to Taco Bell, I'd be just as excited. If that person was the right person, you wouldn't mind. And I think women on the other side should understand that. Yes, I might be upset about driving all the way to the city to go on a coffee date. But if I find that on the phone I have a real strong connection with them and I want to get to know them, no matter where you are, it shouldn't matter. With the right person, it won't matter. But I do think the courteous thing while you are in the courtship, before you are exclusive, is the man should pay. And the man should pay what is reasonable for them. I
Akash?
don't know. Was there anything else for this? Sorry.
No, no, no. You covered it really well. Thank you. Akash, do you have anything?
Yes, absolutely. Before I get into chivalry and all that, I want to highlight something that Vaidehi said, which I think we all in the single world should really learn from. Vaidehi mentioned that she looked up attachment styles and she's always tried to better herself as a dater. I think that's a really powerful thing, and I think it's something that we overlook. If our goal is to settle down and to find a meaningful relationship, there's a lot that goes into that. There are steps that we have to take. We don't wake up one day and the perfect relationship falls into our lap. These are things that we have to work at. So I really appreciate the point she made about trying to make yourself a better dater, doing research, doing homework, and just making sure you gain a better understanding of how to be a good partner. I think that's really powerful. So, Vaidehi, I appreciate that, and I think that's something we all can learn from. In terms of chivalry, what is chivalry at the end of the day? It's the masculine concept of protecting and providing combined with awareness. That's what chivalry is. Is chivalry dead? Almost. And I hate to say this, but in large part, it's women who are killing it. Um, because the reality is, most men, and men, feel free to agree or disagree with me here on the chat. We have dealt with situations, many men now in the modern world deal with situations where they're doing the right thing, they're being chivalrous. Um, but at the end of the day, nothing's coming from it. They're the ones getting friend zoned, and then you, after the date, are going and hooking up with your ex, or you're flirting with that f boy. That's the issue. Is I think men naturally want to be chivalrous. We want to protect and provide. We want to have that awareness, and we want to be there for you. But the problem is when it backfires. And I think that's really the issue that we're dealing with. And that's why it's dying, is because men might be doing it, but they're not being rewarded for it. And by rewarded, I'm not implying that that means we're entitled to anything we want. But we will follow not what you say, but what you do. So if men are being constantly chivalrous and they're getting friend zone, they're going to think, I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. And as far as paying on the first date, I agree. It is the man's responsibility. And I'm fully for that. The one thing I will say, I personally prefer to pay on the first date, but it's very meaningful when the girl at least offers. That's it. It's that gesture, that small gesture of consideration that goes a long way. I, as a man, I want to pay on the first date. I want to be chivalrous. I want to do the small things. The other thing I want to talk about, because we've been talking about courtship, I agree. It's a very important part. And I want us to understand the relationship dynamic here. It's always hard for the man to get the woman. After that, the dynamic shifts, and it's harder for the woman to actually keep the man. And that's where, I had a friend ask me, what's the female equivalent of chivalry? And I think that really comes into play not in the courtship aspect, but when the process actually shifts and you're in a relationship. I think that's when men really value the small acts of kindness, the awareness, right? If he's watching the game, if you bring him his beverage, or you order him pizza, small things like that, where it's just having that awareness. I think that's when the dynamic of the relationship shifts, when you go from courtship to being an actual relationship. I think that's where the female equivalent of chivalry, of just having that awareness and kind of being there for your man and providing that support, I think that's where it makes a big deal. So I want us to understand that dynamic as well.
People are asking though, I am very like there's a lot of comments that are saying I'm very chivalrous, but I seem to get friend zoned. So what am I
Yeah,
doing wrong? What's the fine line between having confidence and chivalry?
that's a great question. Um, what I'll say is you should be authentically yourself. So if you are naturally someone who's very chivalrous, who's very aware, who likes to protect and provide, you should not veer off of that. The one thing that's important, though, is understand who qualifies for that, right? Then be more selective in who you're going out with, who is actually deserving of that chivalry that you're providing. I don't think the right answer is to just act like a jerk. If being chivalrous, if being kind is your thing, you should absolutely stick to it. Just do a better job of understanding who's actually worth it and who deserves that time of yours. And have the confidence that, this is who I am. I am doing it because this is what I believe in. And if the other person isn't about that, it's their loss. That means their value system is not in line with mine.
Yeah, I think there's 2 points. One, I mean, obviously I want to sit here and say that, women don't dictate how men react, right? But there is part of that is that, right? If I'm not getting enough attention from my partner, I'm pulling back. I want them to pick up on this cue. There are certain things that if you are coming off a little too strong, I'm pulling away, and you should understand that. There's a dance, there's a song and dance to this, guys. When we learned this at an older age. It's much harder for us to comprehend. But when you date and evolve as a dater, there's pieces of this where you pick up on cues. And I would agree with one thing on Akash is you have to pick up on this. If you are aimlessly trying to just look for anyone and everyone to be nice to and to go out with, you're not defining what you want and what you want to actually pursue in one person. I think it's important that you do that and you intentionally date that person. To sit here and think that you are not going to be chivalrous anymore or nice or kind because the other person friend zoned you or didn't appreciate that, like stay true as to your confidence. That is who you are. That is who you're going to be, no matter if that other person picks it up or not. I've had many bad not relationships, but many bad situations that I've been in where I wasn't treated well or I wasn't looking at that as the right, looking at the outcome and thinking that was positive. But that doesn't define me to be so cynical. Like, we need to jump out of this ship of like, yeah, I'm the nice guy. I show up all the time. I'm so kind. Why don't they like me? Sometimes you are not their person. Sometimes you have to look in your self-awareness of what am I putting out there? What am I doing to attract these people? And also, how can I be better? And sometimes that's not your person. You can only control yourself. You can't control the other person. A no is a no. Whether it's a guy or a girl, a no is a no. Understand it, pick it up, and run with it. Because if you are sticking on the wrong person, you're throwing your energy, it doesn't mean that you're going to be less chivalrous. It's like kindness. If you're always kind, you're always going to be kind. And if you are always respectful, it's part of your integrity. To sit there and say that, I'm going to stop being a chivalrous man, that's how we have jerks that get created. Like, no, don't do that. Just be yourself. Chivalry is an act. It's a certain type of a class. It is who you are as a human being. We can all do these things, but women look on that cue to say that they went out of the way because they like me. These are things that show you that they care, right? Because at the end of the day, you're trying to get the attention of the woman. I do agree that Akash mentioned how, I don't know if you mentioned it right now or maybe earlier, but there has to be a courtship, and a lot of the initiation is from the man's side. Or maybe I don't know, you can comment on it a little bit later. But a lot of this happens because you as a woman open the door by giving them, maybe you've heard of the handkerchief theory, where you drop a handkerchief. That's what they used to do back in the day to invite someone to have a conversation with them. Women initiate that piece, but the man goes up. The man should be initiating the woman in the conversation on dating apps. The man should be approaching the woman in a manner that is respectful and in a manner that is receptive. And if you don't know how to do it in the right manner, like I said, like Akash said, there are dating coaches, there are resources out there on how you can do it. Simply commenting, simply saying, you look nice today, or your earrings are beautiful. Where did you get them from? Have a conversation. Nobody's trying to get married in one conversation. But I think the initiation has to happen because if I am a woman, I want my man to be 150% obsessed with me. It will take me a long time to realize that this is my man, but they have to be more obsessed with me than I am obsessed with them, and I will stand on that hill.
Just a quick little
Right.
just a little question from the chat. I guess this is more of an advice question. How long, Arindam asks, how long, this is for both of you, how long should you wait for a response on a dating app before you move on? Why are you laughing?
Because I think I'm going to touch on a topic that I think, I'm going to open up a can of worms here. But the reality is, this is why when we talk about rosters, this is why you have a roster, because you give yourself the optionality. Look, at the end of the day, we don't know how the other person is going to perceive us, but that's why it's important to give yourself options so that that question doesn't even enter your mind. You know what? If one girl is taking forever to respond to your messages, you know what? That's okay. I have another one that I'm talking to that's showing interest, that's engaged with me. So in terms of how much time, it depends on, I guess, how long you're willing to wait. But this is why it's important to make sure you have options, because again, you can't. I think to the questioner's point, yeah, I'm not going to wait 3 days for a response. If somebody else is more responsive, is more engaged, is showing more interest, that's how I'm going to dictate my time. So my point is, if somebody's taking that long, just move on. Um, and if they come back to you, if something happens, then that's fine. But this is why it's important to have a roster. It's important to give yourself options as a man. And there was a whole bunch that Vaidehi went into, which is going to open up another can of worms. But of course, I'm going to kind of let you decide where we're going into
Yeah,
direction here.
absolutely, Akash. Yeah, we will get back to that. Let's not deep dive into the roster thing just yet. But Videhi, do
Yeah.
you have any advice, real quick, um, regarding when he should move on, like after a message in the dating app?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody, to some degree, everybody has their phone, right? We live in a world where we're more connected than ever. Um, I think an excuse, if you're intentionally dating, I think it's a lame excuse to say that you didn't open up the app and you hate the app and you don't check the notifications. If you are intentionally dating, you're checking that twice a day. Maybe not every minute because again, attachment styles is real. Anxious attachment style, look it up, guys. It's when you are really like looking forward to like, does this person like me? You're really in your thoughts and have a lot of anxiety about approaching a relationship. But if that person is intentionally dating and is on that app and they're checking it twice a day and they haven't responded in a couple of days, I always lead with giving them one more shot and saying, hey, I don't know if you saw my last message. I'm still interested to chat if you are. If not, confidently say that that's okay. And if not, nice chatting with you. Have a good luck. Move on. My max, I probably would have waited around on that message would be about a week or so. But then if you don't hear a response, things happen. And just because a lot of these dating apps make it seem like you can't match with that person again, I also like to believe, and I had the same fear too, is that if they're my husband, what if I don't see them again? If they are your husband, they're not going far. You'll see them again, you'll run into them. I truly believe in the string theory and serendipity. They're not going far. So give it a few days. Don't be so anxious about it, and learn how to be more of that secure attachment style. And I hate to keep throwing that in there. Hopefully, we can provide a link to the folks in here, but it's really cool to read up on that. Sorry,
Okay.
go ahead.
No, no,
Have
no.
self-respect. Make
Go ahead.
sure you respect your own time. And also understand your message that's waiting in her inbox is probably one of 10 to 15. She probably has easily 10 or 15 other guys on her match list. So just understand that that's kind of the game. And just have the self-respect to understand, look, if this person doesn't value my time, my respect, I'm moving on.
We will be getting into the roster thing as well, folks. But Arindam, thanks you both for the advice. I want to touch on one thing real quick, and this is in reference to Akash's video. Um, so, Akash, what is your feeling about height? I know you feel very passionate according to the video. So, what are your
So
thoughts?
I am going to follow the process that I've used for many of my arguments so far. Um, do you know only 3.7% of all Asian men in the world are over 6 feet? Now, this is all Asian men, right? So if we cut that in half, that's where we're talking about South Asian, right? So that's about 1.8. And I assume most of you are situated in the United States. 0.3% of the entire South Asian population lives in the United States. So we're talking about like 0.3% of men that are over 6 feet. So I just want to throw that out there, preface that by saying you want a taller man. 6 feet is always like kind of that benchmark. That is not easy to find. So I just want to throw that out there. Look, to an extent, I understand why height matters to women, but I think sometimes it gets thrown overboard. In my opinion, if you can wear heels and the man is still taller than you, that's tall enough. So based off of your height, if the man is tall, is your height or taller when you wear heels, that should be it. When you stand next to each other, it should make sense. Now, I'm not talking about the anomalies where the girl is like 6'3". We're talking about normal people with normal heights. And at the end of the day, look, I understand from, our ancestral makeup, we prefer, women tend to prefer to be with men who are well built, who have good height, a strong body, in terms of, just reproducing and the genetics that they'll pass on to forward generations. But tell me honestly, if let's say you have the perfect man in front of you, but he's the same height as you, I won't even say shorter, if he's the same height as you, is that a reason to reject him? I always say something isn't everything. And I think when it comes to height, from what I've seen, people just take it way too far. So I understand, but I think, can we dilute our expectations just a little bit for it to make sense? Can we just get to a point that it makes sense? I'm not saying forget about height, throw it out the window. It shouldn't be a part of the equation. But can we just be a little more realistic? Like I said, 0.3% of your potential matches are over 6 foot. And we don't even know if they're single. So can we please be a little bit realistic and maybe take the height thing from a necessity to a preference? I'm just throwing that out there. And I'm 5'10". I'm happy with my height. It's not like that. But I know many men have reached out to me who are very passionate about this topic. So I'm standing up for my fellow men. And Vaidehi, I'll let you comment on this.
I know this chat is like, let her speak. Gosh, can I get my chance in here? I will be honest. I was dating in my 20s and I wanted that 6 foot man. I'm a tall woman. As a South Asian person, I just, a couple of years ago, I realized I'm one of the tallest cousins. I have 15, one of the tallest girl cousins at 5'6". My brother is the tallest male cousin at 5'11", 6'1". Um, Part of this, I think, stems with our biology, like you said. One of the reoccurring things I've always heard, because my grandma used to go with the matchmakers. She used to talk about what was attractive back in the day, and it was always like if the man could be taller than if the woman could be taller than the man, that was a match. Like they put you up against each other with money and attractiveness and looks. They didn't care if they were compatible or not, right? Back in the days, and I think coming from a family of tall people, like that is something I know and I might find attractive. I myself play basketball and I want maybe some tall children that play basketball and I maybe could defend that. I do agree that at some points my dating app circled because there was nobody left for them to show me anyone over 6 feet. And there was something I still keep in the back of my mind. And there were days that I probably, passed up on guys that maybe were a little bit shorter and swiped left on. You can't help where that comes from. You have to dive into it and see, like, why does it matter to you? Is it because you're insecure that you might be taller than them? Or are you insecure that is the guy insecure that they, are shorter than them? We love a good short king these days. And so one, it has to be dived into security. Like, are you comfortable being around someone? It does height really matter at the end of the day? I think we talked about, and I hate this because Indian matchmaking kind of brings us up about our list and compromise. It's not really a compromise in an essence because um, height is a different thing. You should not compromise on things that are like ethics and morals. But could this be something you overlook and say, yeah, everyone is not a 6 foot man. Everyone is not going to be looking like Hrithik Roshan or having a 7-figure, 6-figure job, whatever that number is. We are all different. You yourself are not maybe what they're looking for. And so coming to terms with the fact that maybe a little bit taller than you, or why does it bother you? Have that discussion with yourself and ask a few of your friends is height the most important thing, or is my man that is caring, my man that is going to be the father of my children, that is going to be loyal to me, that is going to provide for me, that I still find attractive despite his height because he has an amazing personality. Again, everything is in pluses or minuses, right? You're evaluating a man depending on what they bring to the table. Is if their personality wins you over, it wins you over. I've had a guy that made me laugh more times in a minute than I could imagine. And I said, this is it, right? And it didn't work out, but that man is going to make sure that I laugh until, like, I will be laughing until the last of his days. Um, So what really matters, right? At the end of the day, I do agree on this list of go through it. If you sit on that hill and you want a 6'2" man, you do it, girl. Guy, you want a tall woman or a short girl, whatever it is, you do it. But if you're looking at where you can take these pluses and minuses, you'd be surprised at what you might be attracted to. And I say that because in my 20s, I did that. I started dating again in my 30s, and I have now been attracted to a bald man that I didn't think I would have been attracted to. I've fallen for a man that was maybe a divorced, and I didn't think that I could do that. Or I had to overcome some of these thoughts that I had in the back of my head. I dated a man that was the same height as me for a little bit, and I said, this could be it. And, if everything else lines up, what really matters at the end of the day. But I understand these are preferences for everybody. And so if you really want a man that is 6 feet tall, you go for it. But if there are things that you are looking to take away and say, there are short kings out there. They are very confident. If you meet one, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And what's funny, I might have to add this, is this year, I never thought about the height thing. The last four guys that I have talked to and dated have been 6'2" or above. So you never really know what life's going to throw at you.
Basically,
And
they should hit up those guys that you went on dates with. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. I also want to say, and I'm sorry to cut you off because I want to make sure this doesn't get overlooked. Height is one factor that's uncontrollable. A man can control how much money he makes, how fit he is, what his weight is, how good he is at game, his sense of humor. All of these things are controllables. Height is one thing that's outside of his control. But yeah, Vaidehi dated four guys that were
I
6'2"
mean,
above, so they might
hey,
not work for her. They might work for somebody else. Just throwing that out there.
I don't know about anyone on this call. There's a movie called Gattaca where someone goes and gets a extension surgery so they grow a few inches taller. There's also that, okay? So if people are getting hair transplants and want to be taller, listen, crazier things have happened, but apparently you can do that. So
Please don't do that. Own your height.
just kidding.
Okay. No, you're fine.
Well, also, and can I
Go ahead.
just say one more thing? And I know another topic is age that is very important for people, and I would love to see if we can dive into that and why age matters, because women also want to know the same thing. But we are not all rich and famous like Nick Jonas and Priyanka, but she's significantly taller than him. We don't know much about their lives and what might happen, but I always love to throw that out there. The age didn't matter for them. She's 10 years older than him, and they're almost the same height. If not, she might be a little bit taller. So be a little bit open to different possibilities instead of boxing yourself in. Height is just one of many things, right? I think a lot of people, we got a lot of feedback about how people only date Gujaratis or only date, women that are a certain age group below them or certain, certain fields or whatever might be the case. But we all have our boxes. I think it's a good idea to dive into where those are coming from and what you could be open to. Sorry, with Gersh.
No, you're fine. No, that was lovely. I want to move on though to what Akash said a little earlier about rosters, but this time I want Vaidehi. What so basically the question is this, right? Should you date one at a time nowadays, right? Or should you date with a roster where you have like four or five guys, girls that you're talking to at the same time or whatever? So go ahead.
I don't I know that Akash made a good point or made a point about how women have a lot of people in their DMs or any woman is talking to multiple people at the same time. Listen, you can't control who approaches you, right? Like I may have cleared my roster a little while ago, it's full. It just happens. It's the nature of the game. You are out there and you're intentionally dating. It's sometimes you are talking to multiple people at the same time. It is hard back in the day. Like I said, when I was in my 20s, I thought it was odd to talk to two people at the same time and go on back-to-back dates. And I would say that, hey, I am talking to someone else right now, and we'll touch base in about a month or so if we can. The roster idea that's shown up in this post-COVID dating era is a protective mechanism. I don't know if I really like it. It makes sense. So you've got a couple of people, for people that don't know what a roster might be or whatever, you have like 5 or 6 people you're talking to or dating at the same time. You might have a couple that you're in the talking phase, a couple that you're in the dating phase, and a couple that you might be interested in. Whatever might be the case, however large your roster is. That happened because I want to say that women, they say have a roster so you're not putting your eggs in one basket. You're not going after one person at the same time. And that I think happened because I've done it too in my 20s. I was ready to date. I was ready for a serious relationship, but people weren't ready to settle down at that time. And I think it was a protective mechanism of like, now I'm really let down. I thought I found this really nice man, everything lined up, and now he just wants something casual, not a real relationship. And then you kind of get disheartened, you move on, you try to find out another relationship, whatever might be the case. Feel like a roster has been developed and it's also killed dating in a little essence because now you feel like as a man or a woman you have so many options. If this one didn't work out, this other one might. If that one doesn't work out, I might find another one. And I think that's losing the allure of dating. Like I really think it's appropriate to just find a man or a woman, date them, see them a couple of times a week. See if that could go anywhere. Get to know them. I think your intuition will tell you if this is the right man or not. If you want to slowly take it slowly and get to know this person. Because I have moved away from the roster. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's something we should glorify in essence. I think if guys are intentionally dating and girls are intentionally dating, then why couldn't we revert back to it? I don't remember ever hearing about a roster back in the day, and I don't know that it's a good idea. And I would say that I'm probably vouching for it to go away.
Akash, your thoughts?
I think, look, we can look at this two ways. We can look at it idealistically, which is yes, it would be great to just date one person at a time and get to know somebody and make a connection and this and that. Or we can think about it realistically and we can look at the world that we live in. I talked about in my opening statement the illusion of options. And a lot of this has been caused by dating apps that, we're constantly swiping. We feel like there's so many people out there. And it used to be first, we would only connect with people that were locally, like you used to go to bars, you used to go to events, you go out. Like that's essentially the circle and the network that you have to date from. Because of online dating, you basically opened yourself up to the entire country and really the entire world. So therefore, it feels like we have options, but it's really an illusion because if any of these were serious options, we wouldn't be struggling with dating. That being said, again, I want us to be realistic here. Guys, I can guarantee you, any woman that you're talking to currently, she has at least 5 to 10 guys that are sitting in her DMs, that are hitting her up, that are messaging her, that are in her dating apps, constantly reaching out to her. So let's understand that. In fact, it's my belief that until I'm in a relationship with a woman, she has 5 to 10 guys constantly hitting her up. That is my assumption, because that's really the world that we live in. So I'm going to focus on the men here. So therefore, it's important for us as men to also be able to view our options, right? If you are focusing on one girl and that girl is focusing on 5 to 10 other guys, that's not something that's going to work out. The odds are not in your favor, no matter how great you are. And on top of that, I think for men having a roster, it helps you understand what you're really looking for. It will help you kind of narrow down, okay, this is where I think my value stands. This is where I think these are the girls that I think I should pursue. These are the ones that I should stay away from. And the other thing is, not only will it help you improve your understanding, it'll also help you improve your game. You can understand, hey, you know what? What do these women respond to? Right? How do I flirt? What's my flirting style? What's something that works? What are my experiences? Because the reality is, with no guile and no game, there's no girl. And unfortunately, many men, and I've seen many South Asian men, they just don't have game. You guys are very nice, you're very kind, you're very cordial, but when it comes to properly attracting a woman, many of us, many of you, don't understand how to do that.
How do you do that?
Starts from giving yourself options. Because if you're only talking to one girl at a time, you're not going to learn. You're not going to learn quick enough. And before you know it, 2, 3 years are going to pass by and you're going to sit there single and you're going to wonder, man, when am I going to find the right girl? It's just not in your favor. And the reality is, we live in a world where women have rosters, where they have options, and we have an illusion of options where none of them are really working out. If they were, I don't think the marketplace would be as broken as it is. So, idealistically, yes, you should only date one person at a time, but that's not the world we live in, and you have to adapt.
So do you recommend a roster because you want to speed up more experience? Like,
I'm saying it helps. I'm saying it helps.
I think it sounds like, again, we going back and forth about women are changing the dating game and women are causing you to have a roster. Again, I do not know what controls what is, think about when people are on a dating app, right? Like men are 10, it's said in study that men usually swipe right on 90, most people.
Agree.
Women are the ones that are selecting which
Agree.
ones they want to do, which ones they're open to talking to, correct?
Agree.
So if you just so happen to have this many matches and, because of the numbers game, you are going to have a lot of people that you're going to be in a talking phase roster. But just because
Wait,
we
do you really believe that? Do you really believe that men to begin with have a lot of options on
No,
these dating apps?
I'm saying women.
Okay. Sorry.
Women already, if I leave my Hinge open, I might get 50 likes within 24 to 48 hours. I have to sift through that. I might get 5 to 10 that I'm like, I might be able to talk to them, whatever that number is.
Right.
I now have a roster of 5 to 10 people. I
Right.
didn't welcome that. So I'm saying that what steps out of that is what I should maybe focus on at this time. But I'm saying for you to evolve and just say you might get hurt less, it's the same mechanism we
No,
had.
it's not about getting hurt less. It's not
Yeah.
about getting hurt less. It's about, one, you need, as a man, you need to maximize your options. But I want to acknowledge another reality here as well that you've highlighted. Here's the thing. Look, we've already said women, clearly they have the options. They have a bunch of guys in their DMs. We know that. But the reality is, as a man, you need to have an abundance mindset. And the way a woman will treat you if she knows you have options versus if she knows that she's your only option, it drastically changes. To keep a woman honest and for her to actually take a proper level of interest, she needs to understand that you have options and that she can't just mess around and that you have boundaries. And if she violates those, you have other women that are interested.
A lot of this seems to stem from maybe some hurt relationships,
Not at all.
of women that have maybe hurt you in certain ways.
Not at all.
I
I'm
think
very
it's your
fortunate
intention.
in that sense that, I've been able to learn quite a bit and I'm not hurt from anything. I am just telling you how the dating marketplace works. And I want the guys, the men on this call to understand that, to understand how it works and to be able to adapt properly. That's all.
I think I know some girlfriends that cannot do a roster. They like to focus on one person, give their attention. They understand that might not work out, and timing is against women. And maybe our biological clocks are ticking, and we understand that. But it's quality versus quantity. What works for you, right? Like I don't think everyone needs to stand up a 5-person roster. That's overwhelming for a lot of people. If you're talking about experience, yes, I think it is very true that you do need to maybe date quite a few people to get better at it. It's like interviewing, right? You're going for a job.
Right.
You land the job by answering the questions in a manner that works for the person. The job is already done. You think anyone can probably do that job.
Right.
It's the way you fit in for that person and the way you interview. And so if maybe having a 5-person roster works for you as a man, I don't think it dictates that just because I have so many people in my DMs, I operate on the fact that if that person is having a meaningful conversation, I will respond. There are people that sit and I don't respond in my Instagrams. I'm not on many dating apps. I'm only on one. And so I can't speak for what that is like. But I think a lot of times too is you're right. And I think people need to know how to engage in meaningful conversation. Again, if you're approaching me at the bar, hey, what's your name is not going to work. Like find something meaningful to talk to that person. Did they give you the visual cue? Did they look at you and smile to welcome a conversation at the bar? Same with on Hinge. I think the initiation has to happen from a male's perspective, but give me a little bit more than, hey, what's up? How's your day going? Ask me. I made a whole profile, put 4 photos on there and 3 prompts for you to ask me any question. And if you're gonna just say, hey, how's it going? Good morning. I may not respond to you. And that's just me. That's just me. But I think like what Akash said, if we do have 5 to 10 people, like it sucks that these dating apps have become somewhat of a popularity contest. You do have to find a way to stick out. Um, and I also think that hasn't worked for me, and I've moved away. I host singles events, I attend singles events, I've been to conventions, and I'm open to getting introduced to folks in a different area because I don't think that my layered personality can be on a dating app. And so that's my stance on a roster and what people should do. But I really don't think that, it's healthy for dating in general to have it. I think if you want to continue to date a lot of people, do it and take 6 months, date a lot of people and figure out what your dating goals are. But be honest with that, and know when to turn that corner of saying like, I'm seriously intentionally looking for someone. And there are a lot of people that will say they want a serious relationship and it doesn't pan out. So that's my little take on that. Sorry, I know we're
Can I put
very
you on the spot?
topic.
Quick question. Can I put you on the spot?
Depends on the question.
Best Hinge opening you've received.
Best Hinge. I've been off of Hinge for over a year,
Okay, best
so
dating app approach you've received.
I don't know.
Enlighten
I
us.
don't remember these things.
There has to be one that stands. Maybe it was a bad one. Maybe it's something. Men, let's avoid this. Give me something.
I don't know. I think anything superficial, I will probably not respond. If you comment on my looks or give me some type of a compliment that draws that line of creepy, like I don't think any girl will respond to that. I
Hmm.
don't know you, sir. Thank you so much for that compliment, but that comes off a little bit creepy.
Okay. Thank
No,
you.
that makes sense. Okay, so moving on to another topic. So at one point in time during this event, we had 69 participants. So in honor of that, I think let's discuss sex. So, there is a saying called, or the saying is, women control access to sex, men control access to a relationship. How true is that, Akash?
100%. Women decide if and when sex happens, men decide if the relationship happens. And I'll tell you the reason again. This is because when we were talking about courtship, I had mentioned the game is it's harder for men to get the woman and it's harder for the woman to keep the man, which is why for a man to qualify to get sex from a woman, like I said, he has to be good looking. He has to have a good sense of style. He has to be, he has to have a good job. He has to earn well. He has to be charismatic. He has to have a good sense of humor. The list for a man to qualify to be able to earn sex is much longer. However, once that dynamic shifts and once you want commitment, that's where it's more on the woman to be able to keep the man. She has to be loyal. She has to be, aware, kind, caring, nurturing. And basically, I don't want to use the word incentivize, but then she's the one that has to bring value to the table um, to get the man to commit. So that is my belief. I 100% agree with that statement because for men to get their foot in the door, it's a long list of qualifications. There are many different ways we have to qualify. But then when it comes to a relationship, if a man is going to protect and provide for you, there are standards and there are values that he needs to see in order to provide that commitment.
I don't know that that's like true all the time. I definitely think that intimacy is opened when a woman feels it's right. Like there is no rhyme or reason to sit there and say, I don't want to sleep with you on the first date or the third date or the ninth date. Whatever makes sense for you. If we're talking about true dating and not just a hookup, that's a different story. A true dating scenario. Um, it's not safe being a woman out there sometimes, right? So if you think about what that looks like, we're meeting strangers off the internet. So for me to acknowledge that I am opening my body to another person, there's a whole level of trust that has to be built on that. Um, I you don't know what people are like. We're meeting them off the internet, or maybe we don't know much about them. And so there's different levels of meeting that intimacy and emotional like intelligence of like understanding what that's going to be like. I think that men will sleep with anything, but women are selective on who they will sleep with.
I
And
agree.
I think you can control that in the sense, like I said again, if you don't control it, it's rape, right? So in both ways, there's condoning of rape for sure. Like there is no reason for us to say there's an access or a control. I think a lot of this time it's when it feels right. And if it feels right and you want to be intimate with that person, you should be. There should be no stigma around that in our culture, nor should it be condoned in the relationship. It makes sense, you do it. Like women that sit here and say like that, you want to wait until marriage or you want to wait until the ninth date or whatever makes sense for you. Like, okay, if that's what you're leading with, that's what you can lead with. I think whether it's easier or whatever, that's up for debate. Like, and we are here to debate that, but that's up for interpretation. I think if you truly want to sleep with someone and it feels right, in a relationship, it should be a next step. You want to take it to that level and see what they are like in bed, and you want to take that relationship to that level, then that's what you do. I don't think that, some of this could be too fast or too slow. I think if it's, you know, a man should understand that if the boundaries and having this discussion with a woman for sure, that this is what they're ready for and that this is what they are willing to do or not do, or are they practicing safe sex? Are they sleeping with anyone? I think that matters. For me is, are you someone that will just sleep with anyone at the end of the day, or are you safe around it? Do you use protection? These things matter more to me than to say like, yeah, there has to be also a level of attraction too. I don't think that every woman just wants a 6 foot, 5 foot, 6'5" finance bro to sleep with. In casual hookups series, that might be a different story. Whether it's easy or not, it's again a song and dance. If you can attract that woman, if you can attract that man, like it builds off attraction, and
But
it
do you
should.
agree the decision is based off of whether the woman agrees or not? That's
I
what
think
we mean by
I
controlling.
think it's mutual consent. It
If
has to be mutual
Well,
consent.
of course, but okay, scenario, and we'll take rape out of it. If the man wants to hook up and the woman doesn't, are they hooking up? No.
No,
No.
Exactly.
I
That's
think
my
it's
point. That's my
actually,
point. So when I say women control access, that's what I mean. Women are the ones that decide if and when sex happens. And on
But
the
if
so
a
other
Akash,
woman,
side, men
one
are the
point
ones
here.
that decided if and when the relationship starts.
Akash, one point
When
here. So when you say access to the sex, the thing is, you set the standards. We don't. We have certain standards that we go with. But you, I mean, you in the sense, all men, most of the men, to be honest. So they have only one standard that it has to be a woman. And you set the
100%. I
standards.
100% agree with you, which is
Yeah.
why I say that's why women make the decision on when sex happens. And that's why I said for a woman to qualify, she just has to be decently attractive and breathing and willing. A man, it's not as simple. You have to be good looking. You have to have
So
a good
have
sense of
standards.
style.
That's all.
Hold on. Sarah, I'm sorry. You have to stay muted.
Okay.
No, otherwise everyone's just gonna be on the mic. You have to stay muted. I'm sorry. If you have a question, just drop it in the chat. Thank you.
So that's the simple question, Vaidehi. Do you agree that women decide if sex happens or not? That's the simple question.
I don't think there's a simple answer to it. It depends on when and who is ready. If the opposite is true, the
Let's
woman
be
is ready,
real. The
the man
man
is not.
is, in 99% of the case, the man is always ready. You don't even have to ask. Let's be real. Let's not talk idealistically. Let's be real here.
But that again, it goes into consent, and it's very unrealistic for me to not give you that answer. It's all about consent. It's about it shouldn't matter whether it comes what is the purpose of this access, right? Like it's a next step in the evolution of dating and you between the two of you. But whether
which
And it
women
shouldn't be
decide on.
incentivized. It
Which
should not
women
be
decide.
incentivized. Like, I think I'm going to say one point and go back to something. And I used to believe that if a man paid for everything, took me out on a date, and it was the first date, I would have to kiss him or something drastic like that. This is the belief that I had, is that it was incentivized back in the day. I had to come to terms with like, no, real men should not expect that out of you. And you should be able to say yes or no when you feel comfortable with that person.
Great.
And I think whether, and again, if you're going to sit there and say women control access to sex, but also you shouldn't be promiscuous because you can't attract that 10%. Now you just created two different things that are a little bit hypocritical. And so if you want someone to
But
move a
they're
little bit
two different things. You need to be able to
give
protect.
access to sex, but also not be promiscuous because they could do all these other things, then they're not going to attract the 10%. Like these are two paradoxes that you've created that don't make any sense.
Actually, you're proving my point because they go hand in hand. Because women control access to sex, that's why men don't respect promiscuous women. Because that means their standard of accepting and indulging in this is very low. There's a reason why they say someone who can, a key that opens multiple locks is a master lock. But a lock that is opened by every key is considered a faulty key. That's what you're going into here. Because women control access to sex, that is why we don't respect promiscuous women, because sex comes easy to women. And do we respect things? Do we value things that come easy? We don't.
I think you want two statements to be true at the same time.
They are. It's because there's one, there's the other. That's what you need to understand.
I think to some degree, men want sex when they want it, but then they also want to be.
Okay, honestly, we always want it. We always want it.
Yeah, but
that's the constant in the equation.
But if men want sex, there has to be willing to.
The woman decides.
Whether the woman decides or not, there has to be women that are willing to have sex with that man, and it doesn't go against it. Everyone has a life before that relationship, and I think holding that against it, you can hold anything else against that person. Were they divorced? Did they have failed relationships? How many relationships did they have? I think all of this stuff, like to some degree, it's your past. You move on, you learn from it, and that's judgment. Not respecting a woman because they have a high body count or that they are.
I'm not saying I don't respect. I respect all women.
Yeah.
But would I commit to one that has a high body count?
Probably again, could be your preference. A man that probably is not as experienced.
Okay, so you just said it's a preference. Can we agree it's a preference and not an insecurity? Because earlier you came at me saying it's an insecurity, and right now you just agreed that it's a preference.
It falls into an insecurity if you feel like, oh, I need to be X, Y, and Z to be able to sleep with everyone. It feeds into your ego, like that you can be able to sleep with everyone. Again, I think that it's a topic that we could probably go back and forth for 30 minutes. But I know that we don't have time.
I'm not trying to tell women what to do. I'm just pointing out the reality so that if a woman has a promiscuous past, she's not well into her 30s asking, well, why can't I get the man that I wanted? Why am I not able to?
I don't think I've ever.
I just want to point out the.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Idealistically,
Akash, hold on, brother. I understand. Thank you. Well, we are a little outside our scheduled time, but I want you to give some closing remarks in general. Vaidehi, did you have anything to close with?
Yeah, I think, as this was a debate, Aakash and I met actually at a singles convention earlier this year. And one of the things we both talked about, him being in his late 20s, me in my early 30s, and different spaces of dating, is that we approach dating very similarly. We see the faults in what could help people in the South Asian culture, especially, date better. I think as a woman, there are some things we could learn from each other to do better. As a man, there's some things we could learn to make this a little bit better. And we sparked a heavy discussion on how we could move the needle for this. And that's what's brought us here, is that majority of this, I know that the comments are kind of off and we had our topics and our stances might be different. But this is all just to provoke a conversation. And I think that at the end of the day, one thing for sure, if there's not a whole lot you can take away, is what we wanted to do is just dive into a lot of these really heavy topics that are common difficulties that people face and say, like, does this really matter to you? And where do you stand on what you want to date? If you can also take away the fact that sometimes you might be the full package, but you might be at the wrong address. And you can't help anything about it, but you can always continue to be better. Whether that's a better person, a better dater, or a better exercise your relationships and make those strong. Like if you have strong relationships with your friends and your family, that's going to show up when you start dating. And the third thing is, and I want to give a big shout out to my friends that all joined, because I really heavily promoted this event through all the single people I met and also sent it to my friends, is that I didn't know what I was doing with dating a year ago and over a year ago. And I put all of my best friends, they come from all walks of life. These are people that can tell me, Vaidehi, you are wrong. Sit down. I don't listen to a lot of people, but I can listen to my people. And for me, that has to be, I'm not open to a lot of criticism, but with some people, I am open to that. I put them in a WhatsApp group and I worked through a lot of the struggles that I had, a lot of insecurities about the type of people I was seeing, and changing my mindset. You may not have these people in your corner today, but it's something that you might be open to listening to your friends and family in a supportive environment or a dating coach or a therapist. Whatever works. I am blessed to have a really good group. Shout out, throw some emojis out there if you joined from my friends to be on this call, but they keep me honest, they keep me truthful, and they help me, navigate these dating lives or whatnot when I'm not sure what I'm approaching or what I'm doing and steer me in the right direction. So if you're struggling in these topics, there is a lot of good resources out there. Dating coaches, free advice on it, dating coaches that are on Instagram you can follow. Um, Looking at attachment styles, things like that. I think that we could all do better. And me and Akash, our one goal was to help people by having somewhat of a back and forth. So hopefully that was a takeaway you had today. And thank you for joining us.
And Akash, any closing thoughts for yourself?
Absolutely. First of all, I just want to start off by saying I have a tremendous amount of respect for Vaidehi. She and I have known each other for about 6 months, and we have for a while discussed doing a podcast together. But despite maybe some areas where we differ, I have a tremendous amount of respect for her. She is awesome. And I've really enjoyed getting to know her and sharing the stage with her. Also want to thank you, Utkarsh, and the entire Single to Shaadi team who helped us really bring this to life. And most importantly, I want to thank all of you that joined. The chat was incredible. And honestly, it was your engagement that really made this discussion heated, that really brought the best out in Vaidehi and I. So I really I want to appreciate that. My final thoughts before we depart. Look, I am not a dating coach. I am not a relationship expert. All I share are the guidances that I have received, and the understanding of the dating marketplace and what I have seen. Um, I am not in a position to give advice to women because I'm not a woman. I have not experienced the things that you guys have experienced. So I'm not really in a position to give you any advice. All I can give you is the male perspective. However, I would like to say you guys are amazing, beautiful creatures. You all bring a set of very strong value to the table when coming into the dating scene. My only guidance would be understand what that value is and lean into it. And then also have an understanding of what really matters to you. And that'll, I think, significantly open up your eyes and open up your options, because I think your perfect man is out there. And I really hope and pray that you find him and you find him soon. But really, my guidance here tonight is for the men. We talked about the supply and demand issue. how 90% of the women go for the top 10% of men, the elite men, whatever we want to call that and consider that. The best way to set yourself up is to get into that top 10%. And the reality is, if you commit yourself to getting better every single day, becoming the best version of yourself, you will open yourself up to all the options that you want. And then you can make the right choice based off of what you are looking for and something that matches the idea of what you would like to settle down with and build a world with. So that's my advice. My advice at the end of the day is always going to be for the men, and that is be better. Let's be better. We're pretty great. I'm sure all of you, I know some of you that are on here. I'd love to get to know others of you. There's value that we bring to the table. I think there are some really good men out there. Let's continue to get better. Let's continue to do better. Let's be the best version of ourselves. And that will allow us to become better partners to the women that we seek. So that's my advice for everybody. And again, at the end of the day, just very grateful to everybody who was a part of this journey with us. And I wish you all the best as you all find your partner out there. So thank you very much. Of course,
Amazingly said. Amazingly said. Can we get some W's in the chat, please? Some
from
claps,
what I'm
some
reading,
nice emojis.
from what I'm reading, I think this was a hands down victory.
Yeah.
A lot of support coming her
For
way,
sure.
rightfully so. She's
Oh.
fantastic. I always say I'm either the hero or the villain. I don't do side roles. So if I have to be the bad guy, if I have to be the villain here, maybe speak some truth that people don't want to hear. I'm happy to do that. But if you want to debate more with me, feel free to hit me up. I'm gonna be at the Jersey City event that Single
Yes.
is hosting on Saturday, so would love to get into some of these topics with you guys. But Utkarsh, as a host, you've been fantastic, and I'll let you take it from here.
Oh, thank you, brother. So just a couple more things, just last minute things. So we have our virtual speed dating event that's coming up this weekend. I believe you get a $20 code. I may be incorrect on that, but there's a virtual speed dating event that's coming this weekend. And then as Akash mentioned, we have a happy hour coming in Jersey City. So come on out and debate him some more on Saturday. And then there's a singles mixer early November in Chicago. So come debate Vaidehi as well. And there's also a Profile Perfect 25% off consultation as well. So this will be recorded. We will put this on YouTube and everything as well for y'all to like just watch, peruse, whatever. But yeah, no, yes, I echo exactly what Vaidehi and Akash said. Without this platform, without you guys, I mean, this wouldn't have been possible. So we appreciate you all taking the time to like come and watch us, watch them debate. Follow them. So follow Vaidehi on IG, Instagram. So it's at Life of Vaidehi, and then follow Akash as well on Instagram. Aki, can you put it in
I said,
actually?
yeah, it's my. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Or do you have access to that chat? Can you just put that in real quick?
Yeah.
But more importantly, follow if you're on Meetup, follow his Meetup group called Browns on Broad. So they host meetups like single or not, right? Gosh, it doesn't matter.
No, it's for singles.
Oh, okay.
But the one thing we do is we do a diverse set of events. So we've done mixers, but we also do like singles volunteer events, tailgates, watch parties, themed parties, things like that. So we like to give people a platform to connect, but in different manners, where you get to see different sides of people. So
Yeah. I think Dipesh is asking what's the at. It's on the Meetup.
I haven't. It's not. We're not on. I haven't created an Instagram page. I run it through my personal. But if you look on the Meetup app, you should be able to find it.
Yeah,
Hit me
literally on
up.
the Meetup. Yeah. Browns on Broad.
Browns.
Yeah, it's on the description of our event here as well. So, well, thank you all for showing up. We appreciate it again. And we hope you all have a good night and a good weekend. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Thank you.